Some of the people, shit here, uneven bounce up you guys as well. So I haven't said that for some time, actually. It's about 3 weeks ago that I was last on a live stream. Basically, time out, very busy, personal life, but glad to be back doing this. Very much enjoy this. As you guys know, I'm very much glad to be back doing a live stream with Rajiv. Oh, actually, apologies. I had my YouTube feed in the background, so a bit of an echo. Apologies. Anyway, so very much glad to be back doing this with Rajiv Radhakrishnan. As you guys know now, if you watch any videos on my channel, it's a very familiar face. So Rajiv is a very passionate cricket fan, long-standing, been following the sport for decades. Has also written a cricket book, which you actually never really delved into that, have you, Rajiv? So maybe at the end of the show, we can talk a bit more about that. Cool. There's also had some articles published in The Cricketer as well. Today, we're going to be talking about overseas experiences watching cricket. So I've watched cricket overseas, a couple of different countries, and so's Rajiv. So we want to talk about that today, and kind of our stories about that. It is very much this kind of live stream was stemming from Rajiv. He's got quite an interesting story to tell. A little bit of Bollywood sprinkled in there as well, as we'll get to a bit later. For you Bollywood fans out there, so it should be good fun. So anyway, anyone in the chat, please do leave me, leave us some comments. We really enjoy the comments. It's a good thing with Rajiv. So when we do shows together, we generally get a few comments coming in, which is great because I think we always answer all of them. So we do get back to you as part of the show. Anyway, Rajiv, as always, I'll leave the floor to you, mate. If you want to crack on. I think did you want to start with your experience watching cricket in Australia? Obviously, I know you're the 2010-11 Ashes, or do you want to start with your India experiences? It's up to you.
Why don't we do it in the chronological order? So India would be the first one.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you, Shay, for asking me on here. Your YouTube channel pods have been going from strength to strength. I've been seeing all your interviews, so it's really great to see that. And we all really enjoy your work. And I think you sort of praise everyone else who comes onto the show. I think praise is due for you as well for putting all this effort and energy into what is a very a great cause, what you do. So thank you, Shay. So I was 25 when I first saw a cricket match overseas, which for someone who's such a cricket fan is probably quite late. Seen all my cricket from 1986 up until 2004, 18 years, from 7 to 25, pretty much every year at home. I saw every test match pretty much throughout that year, or at least an ODI or even a county game. So 04-05, that winter, Australia were going to tour India. And it was a very interesting tour because of what happened in 2001, which we covered in one of your other podcasts, and what happened in 2003, 2004 in Australia. So there was a lot of interest between India and Australia for the Border Gavaskar Trophy. And to sort of what was indicative of that interest is the fact that India, who's such a keen advocate of ODI cricket, actually culled a couple of ODI matches to add an extra test because of the interest for this series. So I obviously was on that bandwagon of interest, and me and two of my school friends who I've known since I was 13, the three of us went to Mumbai. The only downer was that a lot of the key players were injured for the series, some for all of it and some for part of it. So Ganguly wasn't there. Ricky Ponting didn't play until the final test. Shane Warne was injured partway through. So we didn't get the proper first team there. And the weather did intervene in the first few matches. So it didn't get the attention that the 01 and the 03-04 series did. Having said that, you're never going to get a series that's going to match those two that happened consecutively, both in India and Australia. So it's understandable that not every series can live up to it. Having said that, I was very much looking forward to going to Mumbai. I'd never been to India before, a great place to start my Indian experience in Mumbai. The series was already won by Australia by that stage under the captaincy of Adam Gilchrist. As I said, Ponting was injured. So it comes to the final test, and the three of us went to India. And And I think before the series, I was struggling to work out. I mean, in those days, there was no iPhones and stuff like that. So just internet. And even then, internet was on the laptop. There wasn't any instant kind of communication as such. But one of my family friends who's half Indian, his mother's from Bangalore, he had a very good friend who played for Bangalore, a guy called Carlton Saldana. If you look up his stats, he averaged 44 in the Ranji Trophy, which is a highly respectable average. I'm not sure how close he was to coming to represent India. And I got tickets for my school friends, two of them, three of us in total, to attend it through Carlton Saldana. I never got to meet him face to face, but through another contact, I got the tickets. And what was amazing, okay, this is 2004, but for the ticket, the price of the ticket over the 5 days, even though it didn't last that long, was the equivalent of £2 a day at India's most famous stadium. And you compare that to a ticket at Lord's, when you're paying probably...
Gets you about 10 minutes a play, I think.
Exactly, yeah, probably, yeah. And even in 2004, a Lord's ticket probably would have been, something for an India-Australia equivalent, something like £70, probably about 100 now. But it was £10 for the whole 5 days, and I gave it to my friends. I'm not sure if they gave me the £2 though each. They all owe me £2 each for each day. So I must try.
If you're watching, guys, you'll Rajiv too quick.
Exactly.
So make sure you pay up.
I need
all
that.
The bank details in the comments below if you want.
Exactly. There we go. So I don't think they ever reimbursed me. The fact that I was staying at my school friend's place is irrelevant for free, but that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Anyway,
of course.
So exactly. So so we went for from memory, the match only lasted 4 days, but we went on each of the days. And the interesting thing there is when you get to the ground, they do a body search. You're not allowed to bring in any. I mean, this is 2004. I don't know if the regulations have changed. You're not allowed to bring in any bottles or anything like that because the spectators might throw it in anger. You're not even allowed to bring in in 2004. You're not allowed to bring in a mobile phone. But I wasn't going to give my mobile phone to anyone, so I just hid it in my underwear. To be honest, I will be honest with you. I actually hid it in my underwear because I wasn't parting away with that. And so we get into that. No
Let's
alcohol.
go to send a text message, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't really Facebook or Instagram really there, was there?
No Facebook, no, nothing no WhatsApp, nothing. Just,
nothing, yeah.
So it's actually, some would say it was a better life like that. So we went in, and then you see the cages that you see when you're watching TV. So when I used to get home and watch on Sky TV, that they actually have cages around the cricket ground to avoid sort of pitch invasions, etc. when Tendulkar's batting, and the energy at the ground, the passion and the chants. And I noticed that also there was a lot more younger people there. There didn't seem to be the sort of, maybe because we weren't in the members section, maybe if you go to that members area, which was right opposite us, you probably would have seen the elder statesmen. But it was a very youthful, young group. And I think they were sort of, and you've got to remember this era, this was the peak of Australia. It was right in the midst of, probably beginning to crack a little bit, but they still had, the War brothers had gone, but you still had Shane Warne, you had the Gilchrist, you had the McGraths, you had Ponting, the greatest batsman, in my opinion, of the modern era. Michael Clarke, yeah, and I'm going to come to him because he made his debut in that series, and he got 100 on debut at Bangalore, if I remember correctly. So come to Mumbai, and it wasn't now with the bat that he started with, it was with the ball. So what happened was India, Australia sort of got about it was a very low scoring match. And the third innings, India were not that far ahead. And Michael Clarke, who's a part-time spinner on this pitch that was very, very conducive to spin, and all due respect to Michael Clarke, he wouldn't be getting these figures on a normal pitch, and he got 6 for 9 with his left arm spin. He's a right-handed batsman, and he just went, and he was only 24, and he got that, and it was just great to see this. And we saw Harbhajan also bowling his wonderful off spin, and I remember the key highlights for me there was again Lakshman and Dravid, who did their traditional fight back against Australia. But the scores again were nothing to say, but within the context of the game, they were getting 30s and 40s, which was enough for this particular game. And then Australia, in the last innings, they needed 107 to win, if I remember correctly. And I still remember Zahir Khan bowling the first over. And he bowled his delivery, and because it was pace, we didn't think, that they were going to cause much trouble on this particular wicket. But he got Justin Langer out in the second or third ball. But then he was taken off fairly quickly after that, and it was all down to the spinners. And again, Harbhajan came to the party, and he just wrecked Australia. They couldn't handle the spin. And again, it was just another example of Australia struggling, A, to win a dead rubber, and B, to chase. Australia have always had that criticism of unsuccessful chases. If you look at the history
wasn't this? I think I remember '97 Lords where they chasing 130. Sorry, the Oval chasing 130 to win against England, and he obviously failed. But Phil Toffler that day, I can't remember. He got a bag full. Wasn't this the Test series which Ganguly obviously lost and pulled and feigned injury because he's still absolute wuss? I've always thought it's a scumbag, but anyway, the way I've never been. Listen, an excellent batsman, but his behaviour was reprehensible during that Test series because he didn't want to be the guy who lost to Australia at home. Fact, and he feigned injury. And just, I'm not a big Freddie Flintoff fan either, to be completely honest, but I do believe Freddie Flintoff's stories about Ganguly not training, stuff like that, because obviously you mentioned Rajiv in his last pod about his background, and I think he said he's of royalty, of royal heritage, Ganguly.
They call him the Prince of Bengal. His father owns a very successful printing business, so he comes from a very affluent background. And when he first,
it's not official royalty. Okay,
as far as I know, it's royalty in the sense that because he's a very affluent person rather than heritage-wise.
But also he feigned injury, and then Rahul Dravid took over the reins at the final Test.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of like interesting. You compare Rahul Dravid and Ganguly, who are very much bracketed together because they made their debut together, and they're the same age, 1 year apart. And yes, you are right. Stuff about Ganguly, he did sort of cry out at that series. He saw a green top, and he sort of, how injured was he? Was it just a headache that he could have gone on and batted? You wouldn't get Rahul Dravid doing that. And yes, from what I've heard about what he was like at Lancashire, they called him Lord Snooty. And then when he first made his debut for India in '91, before his test debut in '96, where there's an ODI player, he didn't do 12th man duty. So a bit of an arrogance there. He actually owns a property in Pinner, apparently. I've never seen him in Pinner.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's got family in Pinner, my hometown, but I've never actually seen him. But yeah, so they were without Ganguly. And yeah, as you say, a solid batsman, probably averaged lower than he was capable of. But yeah, missing him was a key thing. And India won that final Test match by about 15 runs. But it was just, regardless of the series context, it was such an important event for me because my first experience abroad of watching cricket, that is, and seeing it in an Indian stadium, the home of Indian cricket, Mumbai. Calcutta may say something else. Madras may say something else as well. But as far as we're concerned, Mumbai is the home of Indian cricket. They have produced a third of Indian cricketers. A third of the runs scored by Indians have come from the Mumbai Marathi population. So you can't take that away from them. So it was fantastic. And I remember one little funny incident was when we got there, there was some confusion at the entrance gate where they thought I'd asked for Madan Lal. I don't know if anyone remembers Madan Lal. He played probably in the 1980s. And the guard actually thought I was like sort of maybe a reporter or something. And he said, "Oh yeah, wait here. I'm going to go and get Madan Lal." It's like the Madan Lal. I was like, no. Maybe I should have said and just gone along with it, but I didn't. And then, there was also, even though there was the energy, there were some negative parts as well. The crowd were yelling sort of homophobic comments towards Jason Gillespie. He's not gay, but doesn't matter if he was. But they were saying some kind of inappropriate chants, and then they were calling Ponting the B word, which I won't repeat. You can work out what that means in the stadium. So there were some unsavory bits, but and then I happened to be wearing a Kenya top for some reason. Well, I'll tell you the reason. My girlfriend at the time, she's Indian Kenyan, she had given me this Kenya ODI top, and I was wearing that in the stadium, and I got all these chants saying Kenya, Kenya. There's a very strong connection between India and Kenya for obvious reasons. So I got a pat on the back with these huge chants. They were screaming at me, actually, Kenya, Kenya, like this. And I know next to nothing about Kenyan cricket, so it was just good to have that. So there was a lot of camaraderie and a warmth amongst the crowd, and yeah, I felt a part of it, and it was a really, really enjoyable experience, and quite different to what it would be 7 years later. But we'll come back to that when I went to Australia 6 years later. So, I'm desperate to go back to India now and watch another Test match on a spin wicket, and watch Ravichandran Ashwin maybe in Chennai, along with Ravindra Jadeja, the left-arm spinner, pick up lots of wickets, because I think that, to me, is really interesting. Not to the extent it happened this winter when there was 2-day Test matches. I'm not asking for that, but that kind of dust bowl, men round the wicket. It's something different. You go to the West Indies, or when you did go to the West Indies in the 80s, not now, you've got the paceman. Well, that's great. Well, now let's try something different, the spin, and then you come to England and you have the seaman swing. I think each region should maintain what they're famous for, what they're recognised for, and I hope that continues. Australia, hard rocket wickets, pace, etc., which we love. But then go to India, we see them trial by spin.
Indeed. It wasn't trial by spin. If we fast forward 6 years to Australia, obviously the Melbourne Test match with the series evenly poised at 1 apiece. Obviously, we know how this series ended. Obviously, fantastic stuff for good old England. Who's that? And yeah, obviously come away with a 3-1 victory on the Andrew Strauss. Fantastic series victory. The first win on Australian soil since 1987, I believe it was. 86-87 series, yeah. So obviously fantastic achievement. You were there, obviously, Rajiv, weren't you? At the 4th Test there, where we saw Stephen Finn dropped after second sixer I believe in Perth. The previous Test match, he brought Tim Breslin into the side. He had obviously a clear strategy for all 5 tests. Very much a horse for course approach to selection between Flower and Saker. But yeah, Rajiv, want to tell us a bit about your kind of spectator experience in that Test match? I mean, obviously, I'd like to know really about the fans. I mean, you mentioned before, there's obviously some quite aggression from Indians towards Australians. Obviously, it's always been quite passionate between the two countries. We're obviously deep in history for both. We're seeing a very intense rivalry between obviously England and Australia, as obviously we've seen before. I mean, if you go back a little bit Ashes history and come from a spectator point of view, the 02-03 Ashes, where obviously England got walloped. I think it was 4-1 in that series under Nasir Hussain. I remember Simon Jones pretty much ended his career in that Test series. Was it the first Test in
Brisbane?
Yeah, in Brisbane, wasn't it, where he did his knee? And I remember him saying in an interview, Simon Jones, that he's lying on the. I mean, I'm laughing. It's not funny at all. He's lying on the ground, writhing in horrible, intense pain, and just getting expletives just chucked at him from the Australian crowd. You soft bastard, you pommy bastard. You know the guy's Welsh, but anyway, whatever. And get that chucked at him as he's like lying, leaves, in this incredible pain, agony, with his career pretty much over. But the intensity of the fans there, that raw passion and aggression, to be fair, as well. So it's always been there, isn't it? We saw that obviously in the 13-14 series with you could get a broken arm and all that stuff for the borderline series from Mitch Johnson. And then we obviously go back 2 years here. Stephen Smith making his reintroduction to Test cricket after his year-long ban. And the hatred, the vitriol he was up against by the English fans was disgusting, to be fair. Even as an England fan, it was really, really nasty stuff. They were spitting at him and Warner. But yeah, I mean, obviously, a very kind of intense, as I said, rivalry off the pitch as much as on it. What was your kind of take on it, Rajiv? Obviously, from where you were sitting from in that 4th Test.
Yeah. Again, it was energy as well, but a different kind of energy to sort of the India-Australia series. So I came to Melbourne and I was secretly happy that it was 1-1. So after England they drew the first Test again at Brisbane, Second test, I won handsomely, and then the third test, I was quite happy that the Perth was lost, so that set it up perfectly from a selfish point of view. I made the pilgrimage, and I tell you, it is a pilgrimage. I went on my own to Melbourne, and I went on Christmas Day, if I remember correct. No, Christmas Eve. I flew on Christmas Eve, and I spent Christmas Day at one of my family friends. Actually, the people who watch this, he introduced me to one of his cousins, and I just went there for dinner on Christmas Day. Complete strangers, Sri Lankan community, just welcomed me in, had no idea who I was, and then so I spent Christmas Day with them, and then the next day I went for the opening day, the Boxing Day test as it is, and it usually does start on the Boxing Day. So this time it did, the day one, and so I entered the Melbourne Stadium. As always, I get to cricket stadiums really early, and I just wanted to walk around this. Now, this is a stadium. It's not a cricket ground. It's not Lord's. It is think of the Colosseum in Italy. Yeah. You can imagine the gladiatorial combats here. It is a machine of a place. It's 100,000, near 100,000, and they play AFL there during the during the football season, obviously. And I went around there, and the ground is itself. There's a lot of history, and they've got these it's where Test cricket was born. It was and where ODI cricket was born, and where T20 was born. All three matches, first ever, were all at the MCG. They call it the G, and I saw there's lots of statues around the ground commemorating these famous players. Obviously, Don Bradman, Ponsford, who I think was a Victorian. And Bradman, obviously, he's not Victorian, but they had Dennis Lilly all around the ground and all these statues. So I had these photos, and then I got into the actual stadium, and you just stand there, and you are so insignificant in this. Lords, you go in there, you can get your bearings. Here, the stands go up and up and up and up and up, and I before the players started play, I managed to get right down to the boundary edge and just look up, and it's something that I really do recommend that people try and do it for an Ashes series, because you still get the crowds. You're not, with all due respect, going to get it if another team's going. With England, there is just that extra energy.
Definitely,
and it is that key word, energy. But on the flip side, if Australia are not doing so well, the members and a lot of the locals tend to leave the ground, and that's what happened. So on that first day, I was sitting right at the top. I got like the cheapest tickets right at the top, as the day progressed, or as the morning progressed, people were filtering out, and by the end of the day, I was actually sitting behind the bowler's arm, and no one said anything. And I saw England bowl out Australia for 98. And this Melbourne Test is actually very important to me in the sense that it was like a full cycle, because I was 7 when I remember Mike Gatting taking England there. It's one of my earliest memories, 1986. I was upset because, obviously we have to bring him in, don't we? I was upset because Gower had been sacked as England captain in the summer of '86 for the first time. Don't worry, he would be sacked again, but we won't go there. So Mike Gatting took over. They went there, and it was at Melbourne where they won the Ashes. They were 1-0 up at Brisbane. They drew at Adelaide, drew at Perth, and then is that right? Yes, that's right. No, they did that. And then at Melbourne, they won at Brisbane. Sorry, drew at Perth, drew at Adelaide, and then at Melbourne they won that match in an innings within 3 days. And now, after that, it was dominance for Australia for 24 years at home and definitely away. They won 8 series in a row. And then 24 years later, I'm there now at the age of 31. And I see the complete reversal where England take the Ashes, not the series because it's 2-1 and there's still one more test to play. They've regained the Ashes because they only need to draw, but they want to win the series, which they do go on to do at Sydney. But they've still won the Ashes when I'm there and I see it there. I come back on the 4th day. They do the sprinkler dance. There's only a couple of hours, I think it's just one session they play. They get the last few wickets. And Melbourne, I was a bit worried because I've heard Melbourne, the weather is always a bit dodgy. It's a bit like England. But I was blessed with really, really good weather. Not stinkingly hot, like maybe Perth or Brisbane, but good conditions. And I watched it, and I saw one of my most prominent memories from that is seeing Ricky Ponting arguing with the umpire, because Kevin Peterson was given not out. It went up to the third umpire. There was a bit of confusion or a glitch in the technology, and it should have been given out. And Ricky Ponting was losing it on the pitch to the on-field umpire. Now, the on-field umpire, it's not his fault. It's the guy up in the thing. But for me, that just represented how Ricky Ponting was now the only last remnant of that golden era of Australian cricket. He was the last man standing. He had lost he had lost Shane Warne. He had lost Gilchrist. He had lost all of them, the War brothers. Everyone had gone. It was only him remaining from that golden age. And he was leading, with all due respect, a bunch of guys who were not in the same league as they were from yesteryear. And I think all of that boiled in. He was losing the Ashes at home. It was happening on his watch. And, as a batsman, he's one of the greatest. And he played in these great teams. And now he was beginning to feel what it must have been like for Brian Lara to be the best player, probably in the world, not just in your team, to be the captain, and yet the others can't perform. Like Viv Richards never had that issue because he had Gordon Greenidge and the four fastest bowlers of all time with him. All these other great players didn't have. Now Ricky Ponting was beginning to feel what Lara felt throughout his whole career. Ricky Ponting only saw it for probably the last 3 or 4. And he blew up in that stadium and he got fined, etc. And I felt for him because it was difficult for Australia to see now decide to bet. Having said that, they still rebuilt and they're rebuilding and they still went on to win a World Cup and they still went on to win Ashes 5-0. So their decline wasn't as rapid, say, as the West Indies. But
Ponting went for another 2 years, didn't he? Another 2 years he went on for. It was 12-13 series against South Africa and lost 1-0. That was his final series. Because I thought he might have tried to get through to... I thought he might try and got through to 2013 Ashes. He might somehow script his way in, but...
he resigned the captaincy. He played under clock. But I think he missed being with his mates from his era. These weren't his guys anymore. That's what I get the impression. I've got no evidence of that, obviously. But and then I just and another thing with the Australia tour is that it's a whole group of people who have coming to watch it. It's more of a community feel in that. With India, I wasn't going with the tour group, nor was I going in Australia with the tour group. But there still felt a little bit more camaraderie from the sort of the British public who were coming over, and I saw some of them on the airplane, and then I saw them at the ground. There was a bit more that this wasn't just the cricket. We're coming here for the whole experience. And when I say that, they were coming here to go to the wineries. They were the wineries. They were going to see the other attractions that Australia have. They were going to Uluru. They were doing that. With India, I think it's pretty much the cricket only. Here, Australia was the whole package, and it was the whole experience. And to do that, so I think next time if I ever do it, I will want to go with a supporters group, like the way I think Alan Lamb and Gladstone Small lead these supporter groups. I mean, they're very expensive, so one day hopefully I will be able to do that. It was interesting when I landed in Melbourne, and you will know because of all my famous spots that I keep spotting people randomly, not just cricketers. I was in the airport, landed in Melbourne, and who do I see? Marcus North, and I had a photo with him. He wasn't in the team. I didn't mention that to him, but he said he was just coming back from Tasmania playing a domestic game. I can't remember who Marcus North, but I think he's Western Australia.
West Australian, yeah.
So he was stopping by Melbourne on transit. But yeah, randomly, I've come all the way from England for an Ashes series, and I bump into a domestic player who has just been axed from the Australian side. And there I am smiling away thinking, what should I say? And I couldn't actually remember if he was in the squad. Luckily, I realized later he wasn't. So I saw him. And then I also did the Neighbours tour, which is based in Melbourne. So I got there and I went around the fake Ramsey Street and saw Erinsborough and, or Lassiter's hotel complex.
Oh, yeah.
But then,
Lassiter's, right.
It was
Erinsborough. Oh, my word.
I used to watch Neighbours when it was Joe Mangle and Henry Ramsey. So 2010.
Dr. Kennedy or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did a little bit later. Yeah, I think he's still in it. But so yeah, I saw.
No, that guy must be dead by now, surely.
No. I think he's still going strong.
Oh my word! And
I actually went to the houses, the Ramsey Street house. You can't obviously go in; people live there. But one of the studio bought one of the houses, so they own the house, the studio. And the beginning of Neighbours credits when it first started, you see all the houses. So I saw all of the photos and did that.
Is Neighbours still going as a TV show?
Yeah, Neighbours is still going. Yeah.
They're still producing more episodes.
Do I see what's it?
They're still producing more episodes of Neighbours.
Yeah. I don't watch it. But yeah. So,
One of that guy's in it. What's his name? Toadfish.
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 I think he
Toady.
might be Toady, yeah, Toadfish, yeah.
Toady.
Yeah.
Toady.
So,
Oh God.
he's probably about my age, I'm guessing, but maybe a bit older.
No, he's got to be older. He's got to be older than us. He's got to be like hurtling towards 50. Surely that guy, man. Oh, what it looks like. I'm gonna go after this. I'm gonna Google the current cast of Neighbours to see what the hell's honestly crazy that stuff. Oh,
going back to that, Shane Warne and Mike Whitney appeared in Neighbours. Mike Whitney, I don't remember him. He played before our time.
Fast bowler.
Yeah, and then Shane Warne appeared a lot later. Shane Warne's a Victorian, whether Mike Whitney is, I'm not sure. So,
interesting. Speaking of some celeb spotting, we're all here for the for the juicy parts, obviously, before we head back into your experience in Sri Lanka. So. Rajiv obviously wants to point out as will be the thumbnail when this video is published tomorrow for viewers if you're watching as of Friday, 20th of May. You'll see a lady on the thumbnail image. And I forgot her name, to be completely honest, Rajiv. Obviously, you can enlighten us now. You obviously want to bring her into the mix, don't you? So feel free to let us know why you wanted to talk about this woman so much on this video.
Well, it's not me. I never like to boast about these things. It's not like me to do that. I never talk about myself. Never. Ask all my friends. I'm not an attention seeker. So anyway, that 2004 trip to India. So I'm there with my two school friends who I've known for years. And part of the trip was actually, I can't remember if it was before or after the Mumbai test, to go down to Goa and just have a few beers down there as well. So we went down for like a weekend, I think it was, and we were. At a beach, just drinking, and then one of my school friends saw this very, very attractive, hot girl on a motorbike, and said to me, "I'm always the sort of the liaison officer to go in, the recce rather, to go and speak to her." So I said, "Yeah, go for it." So I went up to her and I said, "Oh, what are you up to?" And she said, and I quote, "I'm not joking. She's just met me, and she sees my two friends in the background, and she says, this is her opening line, "Oh, me and my girlfriends are having a pool party. Would you guys like to come?" And we just went, okay, let's think about this. So we did, and we followed her in the middle of this Indian forest. I still remember going in like sort of like near jungle area. We got to her place, and her two other female friends decided to get fairly half naked and get into the swimming pool. We obviously weren't dressed for the occasions, and I remember borrowing my school friend's boxer shorts for some reason. I didn't want to get mine wet, and dived into the swimming pool. Anyway, so we all had, and I was drinking vodka from, we were all just 25-year-olds having a great time. Anyway, and she actually said that she was actually originally from Mumbai. She lives in Mumbai, and then she said, here's my mobile. Maybe when you guys get back to Mumbai, we can meet. I said, yeah, fine. So she gave me the number, so I said, okay, fine. I wasn't really concentrating, to be honest. I really wasn't. And then we got back to Mumbai, and also in Goa, my other school friend hooked up with these two Swiss girls. So while India and Australia were struggling to score runs on the pitch, while they were struggling to score runs off the pitch, we were doing quite well with the bat in hand, and we were making a lot more progress off the pitch.
With the bat in hand, if you want a metaphor, we're gonna keep my. Well, I'm hoping you're gonna say. I thought you were gonna say it's a long. I went with the long handle. So
no, we can't go that far. We got to keep this respectable. So anyway,
no, you have to keep respect. That's not even about to me. That's why I'm different to everyone else out there. That's why you're gonna see a much more. It's just a little break from this whole even mouth thing. I realized I'm just gonna be myself on these things more and more. So yeah.
Go ahead. So we got back to Mumbai, and
Rajiv, show these chicks are three stumps, eh? Show them
all day, and the bales. So we were there, and then it was like the night before we were flying out, or 2 nights before, I can't remember. And the Swiss girls were joining us for dinner, so I messaged this Indian girl who had met in Mumbai, and she said, "Yeah,
you're not going to get her name, Rajiv."
We'll come to that in a second. We'll come to that.
Okay.
So she said, "Yeah, fine." So we go to the restaurant, and the Swiss girls are with us, and I'm sitting there next to my school friend. The two Swiss girls are in front of me, another school. And then finally, this Indian girl joins, and she comes in, and she sits opposite me, and she says, and again, I'm not making this up, she whispered to me and said, "I thought we were having dinner alone." So I said, "Oh no, okay, I don't know." And at that age, I really couldn't speak to girls, to be honest. I still can't. Throughout the meal, my school friend, who can speak German because he did French and German at university, he kept laughing with the Swiss girls in their common language, German. So I just looked at them and I just like, oh, I can't speak German, so I don't know what. Anyway, the Indian girl left, and then my school friend and the two Swiss girls were saying, we could see what you guys were doing under the table. Apparently we were playing footsie or something. And I said, no, I don't remember doing any of this. But they said her foot was very permanently put on top of yours. Anyway, just a joke and everything. And then before I left India, I actually got her a little T-shirt saying, I can't remember what it said, just a little joke. And then she messaged me when I got back to England saying, "Oh, thank you for the present. I really liked it, whatever. Why I got this random Indian girl who I'd only known for 2 days a T-shirt is beyond me, but there you go." And then I lost touch with her, and that was it. I didn't bother, and I then got married. So anyway, and then when I got divorced, I went back to India, and I got back in touch with her. But in the meantime, I'd found out, because she had told me over email, that she was now in Bollywood movies, and she was in this movie called Rajniti. Her name's Nikila Tricker, and if you do a Google on it, you'll find her. And she was in a Bollywood movie. And I think she'd been in others, but anyway, so I was like, okay. So then I went into 2011 to meet her, and I actually saw an IPL game, which we'll come to. So that's another cricket match I've seen in India, which I forgot to mention. And I saw her, and I remember, I think I tried to hold her hand or something, and she said, "Look, I was really attracted to you, but you're going through a divorce or something, and I don't really want to, be a part of that or something." So I was like, okay, fine. And I remember I came back to London, and one of my female work colleagues, Jazz, who I was very close to, she said, "So tell me what happened with the Bollywood guy?" And I said, "Well, we managed it and just hold hands." And Jazz said, "So let me get this straight. You went all the way to India. You spent £1,000 to get there, and all you got was a hand holding and a kiss on the cheek. You really are a loser." I said, "Thanks, Jazz. Thanks a lot. That made me feel really good." So we had a good laugh about it, and I've lost touch with her now. I've met someone new. Obviously, I won't be in touch with her now. But but yeah, no, it was Bollywood. She's been in. I think she might be. I don't know anything about Bollywood movies, but she's there. And yeah, it was just a funny story that my friends found hilarious with the footsie, and that, and it's just gone down in history as one of the classics. But yeah, watch Rajniti. She's on that, and she plays. I don't know who she plays, but yeah, she's in that. So. But yeah, and on that second trip in 2011, I went to that IPL game. I wanted to see what this IPL was about. And I don't know. I know you do shows on T20, don't you?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit on the IPL.
So I won't say anything. I won't say anything negative, but my sentiments on T20.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and yeah, T20. But I had to do it because it was an IPL, so I ticked that box. And then I did that, and then we move on to sort of Sri Lanka, and that, I'm afraid. If I may, without sounding disrespectful, there was a combination of things. This is 2017, September.
Oh, recently.
And I think the whole thing, it was India, Sri Lanka again. And it was India, Sri Lanka, and ODI. And I went to the stadium in Colombo. I think it's called the Premadasa. There was a sterile, empty feeling, because you know what? I don't blame the players. I don't blame the public. It just reached saturation point. No one cared about this stupid, meaningless thing, even though you've got Virat Kohli, and this is 2017. So by then, Sankar and Jayawarner would have gone, but Angelo Matthews would have been there. And you had, India, Sri Lanka, they always produce good players, maybe not Sri Lanka so much now, but India always produced good players. And they just, no one was there. And I felt...
Malinga, maybe?
Sorry?
Malinga?
Malinga was there. But I felt after all the hype I'd enjoyed with India, the energy, and there's more context there. And with Australia, and then to come to Sri Lanka and see that, it really was a damper. And it was probably worse than the IPL experience. And it's a real shame, because Sri Lanka, I think, and a combination of the decline in Sri Lankan cricket, it just added to what was really a pretty sour experience. I fell asleep. I actually fell asleep watching it. And I can't even tell you who won. I really can't. I can't even tell you a single event of that match. I can't tell you who scored what. I can't tell you a single thing. And I don't even want to look it up to find out. But yeah, now looking forward in terms of overseas cricket, the next one I really want to do is go to the West Indies and see, England. It has to be England, because they treat Test cricket so well, and they bring the masses with them to make it feel almost like a home game. And to watch that, England and West Indies.
They're next year, aren't they? Next year.
Did they go? I just found out. Yeah, Mike Gatting is leading a tour group, one of the tour groups. And for me to go and see, and my new girlfriend, she's of West Indian extraction. She's an West Indian Guyanese. She knows the Caribbean islands, and it would be great to go with her and see, cricket played there. And I think to go with a tour group is really important as well, because you're with like-minded people who enjoy the cricket. And with cricket, unlike with any other sports, you're with them the whole day, and you build up these bonds, and you chew the fat of the game. And there's so many dynamics and variables in cricket compared to other sports that there's more to digest, there's more to think about. And as an example, I'm playing tennis now at a new club, and they've asked me to write some of the reports, because they found out that I write, as you know. Mm-hmm. And I struggled to write the first report because it was a tennis match, and I was like, well, I can't give the individual performances because it's tennis, obviously, or rather I can, but there's nothing else. What else can I say? With cricket, I can say, X batsman got 50, then there was a slow period, then there was this, then something else happened. With tennis, for someone who has never written about it, it was a struggle, because how did I fill up the 300 words or whatever it was without giving the scores? And it was hard work for me. And I just find that with other sports, it is difficult to provide that kind of depth that you can with cricket. So yeah, but yeah,
so you would say, basically, on the basis of the three countries you mentioned, India, Australia, and Sri Lanka, that obviously India, Australia are much more passionate. Sri Lanka maybe slightly less so. Do you think it's down to the format as well? Obviously,
not so much. Definitely the format, but also the context. Now you're going to an Ashes, you don't need context. That is the context. Ashes. It's India, Australia. It's the Border Gavaskar. That is prime time. Here, you're going to see a meaningless fifth ODI in a series that India and Sri Lanka were playing ODIs before COVID, I think every other weekend. Who cares now? And it's just the BCCI and in Sri Lanka just want to make money, and they just keep having these. And for obvious reasons, India and Pakistan are talking to each other. Bangladesh aren't as strong. To be honest, I don't think Bangladesh are that much weaker than Sri Lanka the way they are. And
they're playing currently, aren't they?
Yeah, the combination is format and context. So yeah, and that's a real shame. And I don't think Sri Lanka treat Test cricket with any much respect. I don't think any team do, apart from the big three. I think even West Indies, have slowed down after being the dominant team for 15 years. 15 years they were dominant. And those stadiums in the West Indies, or grounds rather, not stadiums, they were packed to the rafters. There were guys, remember the great Gravy guy in Trinidad? It was it was a spectacle. And even Sri Lanka, they had that guy. You always see him at the ground. I can't remember his name. I think it's Percy. Someone. He goes around the grounds and he's always waving the flag. He was there. How he managed to lift everyone up, I don't know. He couldn't because there wasn't many people there. But yeah, I don't think. But within Sri Lanka, you can still drink at the grounds there. And I've heard that the Test matches down in Galle are lovely. So I don't want to be too critical here. When England go, they really enjoy it. But I've just not experienced it, so it's not for me to denigrate it.
Yeah.
So, but I've heard Galle is supposed to be beautiful to watch cricket. But New Zealand, is another place I'd love to see. South Africa, I'd definitely love to see. Johannesburg, is it the Bull Ring?
The Bull Ring, yeah, the Wanderers.
Yeah, and then the West Indies obviously would be something special.
Yeah, I think one of my things, I'm sure like a lot of cricket fans, on the bucket list is to watch international cricket all over the world. Like the major Test playing venues. Yeah. For me, very much Australia is on the list. India in particular, I love to watch it. Not necessarily an IPL game, that's fine, but just watching. Love to watch Test match in India. Well, I don't think which ground, but like India be great. West Indies definitely. I'd even like to sit on there's those grassy banks in New Zealand and just sit back and watch a test match, in Napier or something. I would love that. Auckland, whichever. I just everywhere. I mean, there's not been a place that doesn't really interest me watching cricket, to be honest. I mean, South Africa, I've watched a few games there. I've always felt that the cricket is almost secondary to having fun, and it's generally a fairly relaxed atmosphere there. About the food outside and the drink and stuff. You can drink in the grounds, on your seat. So that's always been, it's very much an enjoyable experience watching cricket in South Africa. I've always felt, I've never really felt it was so competitive. It's really, that's like Australia. I feel like they're desperate for their team to win. I never really felt that about South Africa. I mean, obviously, they want a team to win, but I never felt that's a really almost competitive edge. That energy being exuded onto the players. I never really felt that every time I watched it over there, So it's slightly different thing. I could probably. I'm sure it's similar to maybe say New Zealand. I feel like India. My understanding of this, speaking to people, I've done a lot of live shows with guys from India. Krishna, Sai, shout out to these guys, Irag and Aditya and these guys. They always tell me about how passionate Indian fans are, how desperate they are for their team to win. The West Indies as well. I feel like the West Indies, yes, there's this idea of a party atmosphere, but I think there's very much a hardcore sector of West Indian cricket fans who are desperate for their team to win, especially the older generation who grew up watching the fearsome team of the 80s and mid 90s, and they're so desperate to see that team, that resurgence, happen. Now on the crack breath weights, but anyway, it's not for another story for another day. But I'd love to watch cricket there as well. I mean, I'd be going to really get involved with the hardcores if I was watching cricket in any country and seeing the raw viewpoints of how the country's playing, not just to go and have beers. I remember I was in Pretoria, Centurion one game, and this massive Afrikaner dude must have weighed about 130 kg. And literally grabbed my arm, just almost pulled it off, and just yanked me down to these guys. It was all getting absolutely tanked, and I was just like, I've never really been that way anyway. But I had to have a few drinks. These guys, I just kind of moseyed on out because they were so smashed. I don't think they realised that I left those guys. I went back to my seat, but it's my place. But I don't mind all that. But if I'm going to watch cricket overseas, I definitely want to interact with the locals. Like if you go next year to West Indies, England series, I'd be seeking out the Rastas. You know what I mean? Who's sitting there, you can tell they sit there and they get so angry, don't they? It seems when you watch cricket in the West Indies, they're the guys I'd be going to kind of go looking to speak to get
it's and I think the crowd passion is mirrored by the success of the team. I mean, if you remember when Ambrose bowled England out for 46, I still remember that at Trinidad. That last hour of the fourth would have been the fourth day, and you saw the ground was heaving, and they had all the signage up. They were saying too much Tetley, old chap. I remember that. They had one of those signs when England they were 40 for 8 at the end of the fourth day. And it was brilliant. Just watching them, they were transfixed by what Curtly Ambrose was doing on the pitch, and it's that kind of passion. And yes, I mean, even me, I'm not got no allegiance to the West Indies, but as a neutral, we still love to watch the West Indies do well.
Absolutely.
We love that team. So it's a shame that they can't do it now. They don't have that conveyor belt. But as I said, that's out of scope for this conversation. But just to go and see that and mix in with the locals and listen to, I mean, my former cricket coach from Merchant Taylors, he is a Jamaican Indian, and he was on the verge of playing for the West Indies, on the verge of playing for England. He played for Middlesex and Notts in the 60s and 70s, Harry Latchman. And you can see the passion he has for West Indies cricket, and how hurt he is by the decline of it. Because he grew up in that era. He's a Clive Lloyd contemporary. Gary Sobers wanted him in the side. He's from that era, just before Clive Lloyd, Gary Sobers, and just a little bit after. And he was a spinner as well, in the mix of all that. So in the mix of all that pace, and you see how upset they get with it. But and I think again, I think that's again translated with the Sri Lanka issue. When Sri Lanka won the World Cup in '96, the passion, the people at the crowd, at the stands. I remember watching on TV. There was a huge interest to go and see Jayasuriya and Murali, etc., and Aravinda. Now that the crowds have dried up because there just isn't that kind of role model. There aren't those, the batting order. I mean, how many of them average 40? None of them. I mean, it's just not there. So you've got to pick and choose where you want to go and see the matches. New Zealand, to me, would be something different, something new. With all due respect to New Zealand, they're not the sexy side as others, but it's a beautiful country and they're a great side to watch. Great people, much a fielding side. They did have a bit of excitement with Brendan McCullum, etc., but generally they're not as entertaining in the Test arena. I'm talking. Definitely in ODI, they're fine. But the thing about cricket, because it's an empire-related game, it has spread into all these regions, all these tropical regions, where the weather is generally good. And if you're a cricket player, you've got these lovely tours to go abroad and play in these wonderful locations. And they should feel very privileged. And we now, as supporters who have now got that support structure to take us to these places with these tour groups that ex-players do. Yes, it is expensive. I looked at the prices. They are highly, highly expensive.
What are we talking, Rajiv? 3, 4, 5,000?
I think an Ashes series you're looking at about 4 to 5. Yeah. And I've looked it up, and what they do is that they look after you from start to finish. You pick which Test matches you want to go to, but let's just say you choose Melbourne and Sydney, the most popular ones for an Ashes series or any series. The tickets are all included, the prices, the flights, the actual ticket days for the game, and then they also put you in little excursions to go between Test matches down to the wineries, etc. And then they'll have like dinners with the ex-players. You may go to the dressing room for the England players. There'll be events throughout it. Of course, you pick and choose what you want, but you're looked after and you're with other people someone who's as nerdy as me, a cricket anorak, I can just sit there and talk about stats all day and this, that, and the other. So it adds to that sense of strong bonds you build with complete strangers, and that's the thing about cricket. And I'll give you an example. Last week I was at the Oval. My girlfriend didn't come. She said she wasn't that interested. The weather was a bit dodgy, so I went on my own to the Oval, and she said, are you okay on your own? I said, I'll be fine. I got to the Oval, and I was watching Sorry About Kimo Roach Bowl, brilliant. And then within like 15, 20 minutes, I was with a group of other men, and we were just chatting about Middlesex and Surrey cricket. Now, I'm not a county cricket expert by no stretch of the imagination, but I can hold myself. And we were just talking, and they were a bit older than me, and they were all harping back to this, and that, and it was just cricket talk about stats and the quizzes and this, and we were just chewing about, and I completely strangers. I had no idea who they were. And then they were Surrey guys, the Middlesex ones I see a bit more often because I remember that. But and that's the thing about cricket; it just brings people together to talk about the inane, boring, dull thing. But for us, it's interesting. Like should they have coloured bails? To most people, they'd be like, I don't care. But for us, that's a talking point for about half an hour. So there we.
Speaking of, obviously, you've mentioned before you're a bit of an anorak when it comes to cricket, Rajiv. Obviously, you've written a book. Before we go, I just want to quickly discuss that. So, do you want to tell us a bit more about your book? Yeah, the name, obviously, probably show up on screen now.
I just brought it up. So basically, this cricket book, it was 2018 March, and I was working abroad in Ireland, and I just realised that I'd had like a few essays I had written on cricket. With word restrictions, which I sent to Wisden. They have a competition. I've never won it, but they print me for being an entrant. And there were these word restrictions, and that's important. I'll come to that in a second. For obvious reasons, it's a competition. So then I thought, you know what? I've got these few essays here, and I'd written like an article in the Cricketer Online magazine, which about an article about Guess Who, David Gow. And I'd had a few other things, and I thought, well, you know what? And the Cricketer by now had given me an online column, so I've had some other few essays published there, and I thought, but for those who are viewing, just go on the cricketer.com and then type my name in, Rajiv Radhakrishnan, and you'll see I've written about Murali, the War Brothers, and a few other articles. So I thought, you know what, why don't I combine this together and put this in a book? So even though I'd had sort of those essays to work with from like 3 years before, from 2018, I did it properly. And then by 2019, June, so a good 18 months, I'd finished the book. And throughout it, I had one of my former masters from Merchant Taylor's, my former history master, edit it, correct it, my spelling mistakes and my grammatical stuff. And I needed someone who knows a lot about cricket, and he certainly does. So he sent me his review points, said, you can't say this, you can't say that, you know, it's not right to say this or whatever. So I said, that's fine. And then I put it all together, got it bound, got it published. And then I sent to family and friends copies. My old headmaster, Harry Latchman, because I did an interview with Harry Latchman for the Cricketer magazine, and I copied it into this book. And they had edited it quite drastically, so I've got the full version in my book. I sent you an e-copy, I think. So I got the book published and everything, and sent it to family and friends. And I also sent it to about 10 cricket professionals, the War brothers, Alan Border, Brian Lara, Alan Lamb, David Gower, Graham Gooch, etc. Only Alan Lamb replied. So Alan Lamb replied saying thank you, because there's a chapter on him, and it was about the 1984 series before my time. I don't have any recollection of it. I was too young. I was 5. But saying that, you know, he should get more credit for what he did there. So I did that, and also in there I mentioned, you know, my this childhood crush I had on a girl called Lisa. I won't give you her surname. And I went to a cricket match with her in the mid-90s, and I was. You can see there's a running theme here that I have these crushes and everything, but nothing ever happens. The success rate is so poor. But anyway, so Bollywood girl, I managed to kiss on the cheek and hold her hand. Lisa got nowhere. Anyway, so so the success rate is pretty poor. But anyway, so and I wrote to her. I was in contact with her, and I said, "Look, do you mind if I mention this?" And she said, "Yeah, it was fine." I said, "Oh, I'm not mentioning your surname." She goes, "That's fine." And then I said, "You know, did you ever like me back?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, thank you." That's all documented, and it came into this cricket book, and I sent her a copy, obviously, and there it is, A Life in Cricket. So 1986 to 2019, just before the 50 over World Cup. I don't know if you can all see it. There you go, and that's me at Lord's. I was invited onto the ground, and yeah, it's a good 150 odd pages. It talks about the 1990s, which I know, you know, back to front. As a spectator, and then after that, from the millennium, it's a shift. It talks about my actual playing for Merchant Taylors. It talks about this charity work I do, Foundation of Goodness, which has got a very cricket theme to it, and it helps the impoverished in Sri Lanka. It then talks about my tours to India in 0405, the Ashes in 2010, 2011, and then it just talks about, you know, my various interactions with events that I've been to, you know, at Lord's, etc., and my sort of cheekiness. Like, you know, one anecdote is I met Graham Gooch in the long room for a function, and I got someone to video it, and he didn't know what I'd done, but I folded a piece of paper saying, "It was great to meet you, Graham Gooch," on video. You can go on YouTube and see it. And then I fly this paper aeroplane across the screen in reference to David Gower flying that aeroplane. And Graham Gooch said, "Very good. I hope it landed safely." He didn't mind. He wasn't annoyed by me making fun of how angry he was that day when David Gower decided to fly an airplane during a tour match. So it was all these little silly little anecdotes, and but yeah, no, it was met with a good response. I mean, I will caveat by saying that no one's going to say, "Oh, it was really bad," when I've given them a book, but I'll take the credit if it's there. I mean, I've sent you a copy as well by
Yeah, I'd love to. I will one day read it, sit down and read it with you, for sure, man. I've got a pile of about 50 cricket books I need to actually get through at some point. But at some point, I will get to read them. Who knows? We've got a comment actually here from Ms. Lavinia Sebastian. So I do recognise this person, but we'll read her comment. I think South Africa love to watch the match at the stadium, as well as have fun at the same time. Nothing wrong with that. Thank you, Lavinia, for your comment. Regina, I don't know if you know, this is my wife. So it was messaging through with my lovely son there, Seth. So who has been on this channel as well before. Lavinia likes to watch cricket matches. Well, she's born and raised in Durban, lived in Joburg, has watched many games at the Bull Ring. She always tells me she's been to the Bull Ring far more than me. So yeah, she likes probably to watch a bit of cricket and do a bit of socialising at the same time. We'll leave it there with Liv. But thank you, Liv, for your comment Very much appreciated. The only comments you've actually had today was surprising because usually we get loads of comments.
Yeah,
but very nice. Yeah, what was happening? But no, it was very good. I enjoyed. Thank you, Rajiv, for that. It was really nice to go down memory lane again with you. Nice for you to relive your memories there on camera. So, and yeah, once again, thanks for coming on, Rajiv. It's been great. Hope we can do again soon. Go think about some other topics to discuss, aren't we? Because they're generally more hard-hitting topics that you and I get into, don't we? As opposed to let's just review a test match or something like that, which I like to do as well, but I enjoy getting my teeth into a proper topic as well, like this. So it's good. It's really good. But yeah, that's it for us guys. If you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, as I always say. Hope we see you on the next one. Rajiv, do you want any final words before we bow out?
No, just to recommend to the viewers out there, if you can try and do this a tour overseas, it's well worth it. Not denying that it's expensive; it is hard work to try and get on one of those. But try and do it, and do it on your own as well. I've done one on my own. I've done others with friends. I don't have any children. I'm not married. I have a partner. That's it. But do these things on your own as well. You can strike up friendships as there. Sometimes it's quite good to do it like that. As I said, cricket brings people together. So try and do the supporters tour. Choose the West Indies, choose Australia, choose India, and you'll have a good time.
Definitely. Excellent. Yeah. Well said, Rajiv. Cool. We'll leave it there, guys. Have a nice evening. Great rest of the week, and catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers, Shay. Thank you. Cheers.